How are rare earth restrictions affecting European car making? What happened to automotive residual values in May? And what is the German government's latest strategy for supporting the automotive industry? This is the Automotive Update, presented by AutoVista24. I'm AutoVista24 editor Tom Geggus, here with the latest edition of the Automotive Update. I'm going to take you through the last 7 days of headlines from AutoVista24 and the wider industry. Undoubtedly, one of the biggest stories this week has been the rare earth export restrictions from China. The country reportedly controls over 90% of global processing capacity of the magnets. They have extensive applications, such as consumer electronics, military technology, and automotive use cases. Following the beginning of a trade war between the US and China, restrictions were applied to 7 rare earth elements on the 4th of April, meaning exporters required licenses from Beijing. This has left carmakers and other companies trying to secure meetings with Beijing officials looking to gain faster approvals of rare earth exports. Industry body Klepper stated that the European automotive supply industry is already experiencing significant disruption due to the restrictions, which have led to the shutdown of several production lines and plants across Europe, with further impacts expected in the coming weeks as inventories deplete. The body pointed out that the affected components are critical to combustion engines and electric vehicles. Klepper stated that, since early April, hundreds of export license applications have been submitted to Chinese authorities, yet only approximately 1/4 appear to have been approved. Procedures are opaque and inconsistent across provinces, with some licenses denied on procedural grounds and others requiring disclosure of IP-sensitive information. Reuters has reported various amounts of disruption. Suzuki put a halt to the production of the Swift from the 26th of May, citing a shortage of components. It expects a partial restart on the 13th of June, with a full restart expected after the 16th of June. The suspension was due to China's restrictions, according to 2 people familiar with the matter, but Suzuki declined to comment on the reason. Bosch and ZF both said bottlenecks were affecting its suppliers. Autoliv has set up a task force to deal with the restrictions and does not expect a halt to production in the coming weeks. BMW said a part of its supply network was affected by the shortage, but that its plants are running as normal. Mercedes-Benz is apparently talking to some of its suppliers about building rare earth stockpiles, despite not having seen any impact as of yet. This week, AutoVista24 published its May edition of the monthly market update. In it, we work with AutoVista Group experts to explore major used car market trends from Austria, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and the UK. Fresh from writing this latest edition of the MMU is AutoVista24 journalist Tom Hooker. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Doing well, thank you very much. And thank you for being with us. So let's get started. What was the major used car market trend that caught your attention with this edition of the MMU?
Well, easily the biggest trend from May's edition was a decline in demand. The MMU uses a metric called Sales Volume Index, or SVI, which is based on observations of 24 to 48-month-old cars. The SVI shows us the number of cars sold by dealerships in this age bracket compared to a value of 100 in the previous month as a baseline. Compared to April, when most markets saw demand grow, 6 of the countries we observed recorded a double-digit demand decline in May. The exception was the UK, which increased its SVI by just 0.2%. Germany and Switzerland saw the biggest drops in demand, with SVI falling by around a third. France also suffered a heavy decrease.
So how does a trend like this impact residual values?
That's a great question, Tom. Falling demand coupled with stable supply can put pressure on residual values. This is because the same number of models are coming into the market, but fewer are picked up, leading to downward pressure on prices. This creates a buyer's market and means dealers and leasing companies may have to lower prices to attract buyers, in turn decreasing expected future residual values.
So where have RVs declined the most, and where have they held out?
To be honest, there wasn't any significant changes month on month. However, compared to May 2024, Switzerland, Italy, and Austria saw steep declines in percentage RVs, with the first two also suffering notable drops in absolute residual values. Spain and Germany saw a slightly smaller decrease, while the UK recorded the most robust percentage RVs and actually managed decent growth in absolute residual values.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, but please don't go anywhere, as I'd like to keep you around for the next segment. So, Tom, you also wrote about the German new car market this week. First things first, what were the headline figures? What direction is the market heading in?
The answer to that question is not completely straightforward. The market enjoyed its first monthly growth since October 2024 in May. However, this was an increase of just 1.2%, which equates to an additional 2,872 units year on year, with both the private and commercial sectors recording improvements. However, new car deliveries were still down by 2.4% in the year to date. Imelda Laber, president of German industry body the VDIK, said, "The slightly positive development in new registrations gives hope for a recovery of an overall market that was still below the previous year's level."
Now, the German government recently approved a €46 billion tax relief package to help boost companies and the country's economy. Now, a major aim of this is to boost the adoption of electric vehicles among companies, but how is that going to work?
So, an investment booster for e-mobility at companies promotes the use of electric vehicles or EVs for business purposes. Accelerated depreciation of 75% of the acquisition costs for a BEV in the year of investment is planned. 10% could be deducted in the following year and 5% in the second and third years. The allowance would then be 3% in the fourth year and 2% in the fifth year. The regulation will apply to BEVs that are newly purchased between the 30th of June this year and the 31st of December 2027. There are also plans to increase the gross price limit for the special tax incentive for electric company cars from the current €70,000 to €100,000.
And so, how has the automotive industry reacted to this news?
The VDA was supportive of the measures. The industry body's president, Hildegard Müller, commented, "The draft law of the Immediate Investment Programme gives important signals for investments in electromobility. The planned tax incentives for the promotion of BEVs can provide valuable and sustainable impetus for the market development of e-mobility." The president continued to say the planned depreciation incentives can provide effective support. The body also sees the increase in the cap on the gross list price for company car taxation for BEVs as positive, with Müller highlighting that the measure will also strengthen the used car market for BEVs because company cars will be available as used cars at a low price after the leasing period has expired. Meanwhile, the VDIK called for plug-in hybrids or PHEVs to be included in the measure. Acting president of the ZDK, Thomas Peckren, stated that the incentive is limited in its effect and does not bring any drastic improvement. He also said that they only benefit those who can actually use them for tax purposes. Private households or leasing companies, for example, do not benefit. Laber shared a similar position, stating that the tax measure does not achieve enough for the ramp-up of electric mobility. This is because it addresses only the commercial business and not even the leasing business, which accounts for the majority of registrations.
And did they mention anything else of note in their statements?
They did, so industry bodies also called for further incentives to boost EV sales. Peckren outlined that Germany urgently needs cheaper charging electricity prices, further expansion of public charging infrastructure, and the removal of bureaucratic hurdles in the construction of private charging points. Elsewhere, Müller stated that the general tax framework for the leasing of EVs should be improved, and that the extension of motor vehicle tax exemption for EVs until 2035 must be promptly initiated.
Now, if you'd like to read Tom's new car market article or the monthly market updates, just head over to AutoVista 24. There you'll also find articles on the UK and French new car markets. I'll put some links in the show notes. And make sure you sign up for email, that way you'll get the latest news straight to your inbox. And subscribe to the AutoVista 24 podcast wherever you listen to us. Check out AutoVista 24's YouTube channel as well. There you'll find our What Is Explainer videos, launch report series and webinar recordings. And finally, we would love to hear what you think of AutoVista 24. You'll find a link to our new survey in the show notes. A big thank you to Tom Hooker for appearing in today's episode and to web editor James Roberts for co-producing. The music is Better Find a Solution Fast by Richard Ames. Thank you very much for listening to the AutoVista 24 podcast.